Her favourite authors were Agatha Christie and Edith Wharton, but she read with undifferentiated glee philosophy or airport novels. Her mother, who had come from County Cork, had barely owned a book and had been suspicious of Jenny's reading habits as a teenager. Her father, who was from Trinidad, had left home when Jenny was 8 months old. After her shift, she would return to the novel that had won the big literary prize, the 2005 Café Bravo, which she was finding a bit thin. Then, after making something to eat for herself and her half-brother Tony, if he was there, she would log on to Parallax, the newest alternative reality game, where she would continue to create the life of her stand-in, or maquette, as the game had it, Miranda Starr. 2 years before, when she was still new to the job, Jenny had had a jumper. She was coming into Monument when a sudden flash of white, like a giant seagull fluttering from the platform edge, had made her brake hard. But it was too late to prevent her hitting a 20-year-old man whose leap had cleared the so-called suicide pit, but not taken him as far as the positive rail on the far side. Don't look at their faces, was the driver's wisdom, and after 3 months' counselling and rehabilitation, Jenny had resumed her driving. The man, though seriously injured, had survived. 2 months later, his parents brought a civil action against Jenny's employers, claiming negligence because their lack of safety precautions had been responsible for the son's injuries. They lost the case, but had been granted leave to appeal, and the thought of the imminent second hearing — tomorrow there would be another meeting with the lawyer, Mr. Northwood — darkened the edges of Jenny Fortune's days. At that moment, in the wealthy inner suburb of North Park, located, as the estate agent had it, between the natural advantages of Heath and Green, Sophie Topping had just made a cup of tea for herself and her husband Lance, who was working in his study. He had done this every Sunday afternoon since becoming an MP in the recent by-election. "I'm just finalising the places for Saturday," she said, handing him a blue china cup with what he called builder's tea in it. "What?" he said. "The big dinner." "God, yes, I'd quite forgotten," said Lance. "All under control?" "Yes, I think it'll be a night to remember." Sophie retired to her desk and looked at the list of names she had printed out from her computer. She'd meant to have an intimate evening with a few powerful people, just so that Richard Wilbraham, the party leader, could see the sort of company Lance moved in. But when she got down to it, there seemed no end to the number of important people she and Lance knew, and wanted the leader to know they knew. Looking down the names, Sophie began to sketch a table plan. Lance and Sophie Topping, the party's newest MP and his wife. It was still good to say those words. Richard and Janie Wilbraham, Richard, the dynamic PM in waiting, would be on her own right hand. He was nice enough, though tended to talk politics, but what could you do? Len and Gillian Foxley, Lance's local agent and his tiny wife. Sophie would put Len between two women who would have to bear his halitosis, while Gillian she buried mid-table among the also-rans. R. Tranter, the paid leader of discussions at Sophie's monthly book club and professional reviewer. She wasn't sure what his first name was. The women in the group called him Mr. Tranter until he invited them to move on to RT. Magnus Dark, a newspaper columnist and therefore dangerous, obviously, but could be entertaining. Sophie dared to put Dark next to chilly Amanda Malpass. Farouk and Nassim al-Rashid. Farouk was a chutney magnate and a large private donor to party funds. He seemed a nice chap, but they both were keen Allah botherers, as Claire Darnley put it. Sophie penciled each one in next to a Wilbraham as a mark of respect for Farouk's contributions. Amanda Malpass. Sophie had made friends with Amanda on a charity committee. She lived in a large cold house in the Chilterns and was beautiful in a shut-down sort of way. Amanda already had Magnus Dark, so Sophie needed to find her someone tonier for the other side. Brenda Dillon. Sophie had only ever seen her on television, where she was an argumentative education spokesman. Her husband David was said to be keen on DIY and to carry his keys on the waistband of his trousers. This was a poser. Tadeusz Spike Borowski, even more ticklish. Borowski was a Polish footballer who had settled with a London club. Lance had met him and taken a liking to him. He thought it would make them look modern to have Spike there. But did he speak